It's a pleasure and a privilege to have Anders here. Anders was a student of mine a long time ago. Makes me sound old, but I am, so that makes sense. At the Norwegian School of Sports Sciences, and then I think I recall writing some sort of letter of recommendation for you, Anders, when you went to England to study to become a physical therapist. And then moved through the ranks in terms of professional, call it semi-professional football, I would say probably in the beginning there, and then into professional football. And then I also happened to be a kind of co-supervisor on your master thesis as well. So we've been following each other along here, and I'm very pleased to see students go out and be successful. I love that. And the fact that we have the same hometown in Norway doesn't hurt. So it's all good. My dad actually lived right by where Anders is from, so it's a small world. It's a small world. So Anders, we have agreed, and also to the audience, if I interrupt Anders, it's quote unquote scripted, meaning that if there are talking points I want, Anders to elaborate on, I will jump in because I know there is some lot of good information here. So, Anders, please take it away and share some of your reflections and stories.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to share this. Just for clearance, this is not only my work. We are a part of a medical team. We have 4 physios, we have fitness coaches who's all engaged in this. What I'm going to present now. And in Norwegian term, that's actually quite a big medical team. Many teams only have 1 or 2 physios, but we are very fortunate to have 4. Also want to make clear that I have the consent to show you all the videos I have with the players, so you're going to see real videos from the training. So for those who doesn't know, Bodø is Bodø Glimt is from a small town far north in the Arctic Circle. Bodø, and you can see here like quite north on the map. Down to the left, we see our stadium. So this is also works as our training facilities. And compared to the teams we now compete against in the Champions League, they are quite humble, I would say. And from this is the part the first team has. So the conditions we have to work with are quite small. There's only 55,000 people living in Bodø, but we actually have 5 players in the squad now that are from Bodø. So I think that's pretty cool. And the club, as some of you might know, have taken huge step in the last 2 years, and now they have been in the Champions League this year, managed finally to qualify. And also that has its challenges. So now our players, because the Norwegian league, it runs from March to November, December. But because the Champions League or the Europa League and Cups, they run also in the winter, our players have very long seasons and they don't really get any holidays. So now, coming end of January, our players would have had competitive games for 22 months in a row. So for us, it's difficult to find time to do lots of testing because we're always in a season. And that's why one of the reasons that we want to try to see if we can implement more testing within or rehab or training structure. When we have European games there, we have to also we get less space. So here is the room we normally use for testing. That turns into a room where they do the interviews after the games. So you can see it's quite small facilities that we have to work with. And therefore, we're very happy that the club now hopefully will have a new stadium ready in 2027. So we're really excited to see if we can get this done by then. So yeah, it should be very good. What's quite unique with Bodø Glimt, and also the way we like to think is our way. So what is Måte means our way. The club pulls in the same direction. everyone work towards the same goals. And I think also this reflects our medical team. Like we want to see opportunities. We want to try to be innovative. We want to challenge the norm and try to be really brave, really, and try new things. And what's really good with our team, I think, is we don't really have a hierarchy, which is you have the main guy, we have 4 people. We're not scared of having discussions, and I think in this way we can develop as people and also as professionals. So I only joined the team in February, and so far it's been very good to be part of this team. So today we're going to talk about we're going to go through 4 case studies. We're going to talk about a hamstring injury, an adductor injury, an injury which was like an out-of-house rehab, and then also how we use the system runs in the phase of a rectus femoris injury. So we're going to focus on the motorized resistant technology, of course, but it's also important to say that this is only one part of the rehab. You have all the other exercises, you have all the CV work, the cardio work, you have the pitch work with the ball, the nutrition, the treatment. All this is a big part of the process, and this is how what I want to talk to now is more about how we use this technology. So the first case, there was a high-grade hamstring injury. So we had a very tight schedule. This was his 3rd game in 7 days and the 3rd game in 3 days. So he was accelerating after the ball and he felt his hamstring. So we assessed him, and we always ask how early can we get people out? For us, football is very important, and we want to treat the football player as much as possible as a football player. So if we can take them out quite early, we will take them out early. So we always have this question, is there any way we can monitor him during the rehab? Obviously have the normal things, like the range of motion, your clinical assessment, your isometric strength, and also can we make sessions so we can have a good intention or specificity of movement. So we thought about this. Okay, so if we take him out, we can use resistant running. We can use the resistant running also to monitor this player to see how he's progressing. And we thought, with resistant running, you can also have good intention of movement, and with a strength training, we can use the Isokinetic mode, for example, which we decided to use in this case, where we feel we can really get really good intention of motion. So we used this on separate days in the microcycle. So we used like the resistant runs on one day, and we used the strength work on another day. So we got numbers from different days throughout the microcycle. So here is his progression. So this was his isometric testing results. So you can see the black is his non-injured leg, and the yellow is the injured leg. And as you can see, it's only around the 5th of August that he actually has symmetry that's less than 10% in different positions. So this was 2 of the positions. We did more than these 2 positions, but we actually took him out running and out on the pitch, and we actually started on the 28th. So you can see on the isometric strength test, he was quite far off symmetry, but we believe that with hamstring you can go out and you can do things early. So but what's interesting here is so this day, so the next day of the microcycle, we had a strength training, and we introduced then isokinetic testing or training. So in this case, we used resistance to 15 kilo when we had the speed limit of 0.2 meter per second. And the reason why we did this settings was really 0.2 was really taken from other webinars with 1080, and 15 kilo was more just, okay, we feel this is the load that on his non-injured leg, the machine will give him resistance. So he just push how he's comfortable really, and this is what and he feels quite safe doing this because it's quite slow. And this is where I feel that this will give him quite good intention of motion. He feel he can push. He has good time and attention, and we also get some cool numbers. So this was the day after he was less than 10% symmetry on the isometric test. On the left here you see his average force. So between the non-injured side and injured side, it was 18% in this session, and same with the peak forces also was 19%. So you can see is a big difference between the isokinetic scores and also the isometric scores. So we had to continue training, and end of the rehab, it looked like this. It was better symmetry. On the pitch, we used from the beginning, we used resistant runs, and we did quite heavy runs in the beginning. I'm going to talk more about this in a minute, but in this run, what you see here on the video, we have the pulleys. You have pulley systems. It has two cables, and the machine has 30 kilo. So on this run, I do 10 meters. You can see his top speed is quite low, but you can see he has quite good intention of movement. And this is quite early in his rehab. So this is around the time when he has symmetry of his isometric strength. The cool thing with this is this allows the player to do normal things, to run with intention, to accelerate, and to feel like he's running quite with like normal, and quick. Like the player feels he can really push. So I think that's a very good thing early in the rehab, that the players actually can feel like they can push, and also that they feel quite safe doing it. So from these runs we get these numbers among others, but we focus on this one. So you can see in the top we see the speed as a proportion of time, and you can see he quite quickly his speed increases, but then it's quite stable. And then in the bottom you can see the forces when he pushes with his left and right foot, and you can see here he has quite good symmetry between left and right. So we use this as a criteria for progression. He has good symmetry, and then we can increase the speed or reduce the load. So here you can see the whole his rehab of this player. We have the yellow is the acceleration, and the red is the top speed, and in the bottom you can see the distance he ran with a different kilo and the date. So you can see on the 28, then he had maybe 50% differences in isometric strength, but we still tried to go out and run. And what we did was we did a more like isokinetic resistant approach. So we said, okay, just try, let's see how you feel. And now when the player tried and he felt good, and he pushed, and in one run he felt like a 2 out of 10 pain. Okay, I said, okay, very good.
Anders, if I may, when you say isokinetic running, how did you actually set that up? So
sorry. Yes. So
what does that mean in running, so to speak?
So that means at first we didn't have any resistance on the speed, but then the player he told me like he felt 2 out of 10 pain. So what we did, I can't remember the score now, but say it was 4 meters per second or something. And we said, okay, then we're going to set the machine so you won't be able to run quicker than 3.5. And then we continued the session, and yeah, he felt good. There was no pain. And the good thing about this with doing heavy is, if you look at the research, is the hamstring load actually go down. So for us, we thought, okay, with heavy resistance, we can actually do normal things with the player as long as we load him heavily. And I also think that, you see some research that suggests that force zero, so if you look at the force speed relationship, might be altered around a hamstring injury. And potentially this could help to trigger, force at low speed early in the rehab, so the deficit upon return is hopefully less. We don't know, but in theory, hopefully. And then we had a little chat with Ola, because this was quite a complex hamstring injury, and he put us a bit more in. We got a bit more systematic approach. So then we use more from here. We use more resistance as a guide in the rehab. So you can see here we used 30, 20, 10. So one session we will increase the load first, and then we will increase the distance. And every session was like this. So I think what we saw, at least with the hamstring, is you can reduce the hamstring load. That's what the research shows. But then bear in mind that other muscle groups also get affected. Some might increase, like the quads. So it's important to be aware of this. We felt like with this measuring, we have within session progression, we also progress from session to session. It helped us to monitor, and as you can see here, we also did some deceleration work, but also that's something we probably should introduce earlier also when they accelerate, to introduce deceleration at the end of the acceleration with resistance, because that will also make the deceleration easier. The second case was an adductor injury. So this guy was stretching for the ball, and his non-stretching leg, he got injured in his non-stretching leg in a game. So we had the injury, and 6 days after, his scores were quite good. He had quite good symmetry on his isometric testing. And because we want to be brave, we want to be as functional as possible. We put the player into team training to be partially with the team. It was worth also saying that the player done physio sessions with us, and also he, criteria on the clinical assessment was quite good. Anyway, he broke down in training. So he got pain. The next day, you can see his strength score is down. So he was like, okay, what do we do now? Is there any way that we can do something different so this doesn't happen again?
Could I chime in here? Because it's interesting when you're looking at the isometrics from after the re-injury. You see both sides are down.
Yes.
What's your discussion and thoughts around that one?
No, I think because we test them bilaterally in the force rate. So exactly. the non-injured one probably compensate a little bit, if you push with both legs. Yeah. So if that was clear, does that make sense?
No, absolutely. But I think this is also where you see having benchmarks becomes important.
Yeah.
So you don't think like the non-injured side is good, is the reference, because it's obviously not.
Yeah, very good point. That's a very good point. So anyway, we felt, okay, there's more to it than this. So we did some running, and we already done some running straight line. This is quite heavy, but also did with easier weight, and it was good numbers. So straight line running didn't really seem to affect this player. So then I think this was around the time where the Ola and Adam Pitway had a webinar from basketball where they talked about the lateral shuffle test. So we thought, okay, is this something we can use to test our adductors? So so this is a very simple test where the player then run towards the machine 5 meters, and then he shuffles back out again 5 meters. So it's a 3 kilo resistance in and out. And we did this, so 3 days after he broke down in training. And on this test, it was painful. And we thought, okay, that's very good, because that means we're testing something that gives you symptoms. So maybe we can use this to progress you. And we saw also from the numbers that Ola and Adam presented in the webinar that these numbers were quite far off. So we said, okay, let's see if we can get you higher. 3 days after, his isometric strength testing was up again where we want him to be. And the same day, you can see in the top one, his acceleration both towards the machine and away from the machine had recovered quite well. And you can also see that the deceleration with his non-injured side going to the machine had recovered, but the deceleration with his injured leg going to the machine had not recovered. So that means, okay, so it's something here with this function which is not correct. And we think maybe it could be that when you go towards the machine, we have to remember that adductors not only do adduction, they also play a huge part in stabilizing the pelvis. So potentially that could explain the results, but we don't know. But what we saw that was a few days later, this also recovered and his pain got better. So even though his acceleration was recovered, we saw that his deceleration was not recovered. And I know this is only a single case study, but we tried this later with other players, and we see actually the same pattern. And here you see the graphs that we got. So this is the first one or the second test, where you can see from the left his in the light green, that's his injured leg moving towards the machine. So you can see that he doesn't reach as high speed, and his deceleration is a lot lower than his non-injured side. And in comparison here, where his deceleration is quite similar on both sides, and also his top speed are more symmetrical.
Anders, could you go back to the previous slide, because this is a pattern that we're seeing in different types of injuries. Because you see when it's the deceleration is different, and you also the top speed you're willing to assume might be affected, and also this is where taking a peek at the deceleration time and distance is actually also of interest, because it tells you a little bit of how comfortable they feel going in and how comfortable they are actually slamming on the brakes. So I think this is a very good visual on that.
And I think what's quite interesting too is the re-acceleration. And you think maybe with the left, or like with the left adductor, for example, that when you push off, they're going to be, you're going to see something there, but actually here is opposite. So they actually, it looks like they like go slow in to be able to go quick out. That's the way they choose to do the task. So yeah. So on reflection is, potentially, we don't know, but it looks like deceleration ability might be important for adductor injuries. And the good thing with this exercise is you can use it, during a pitch session. It can be a test, and the test can also be the exercise here. So, for example, in football, you could introduce a ball in the end and do volleys. If you maybe don't want to shuffle 5 meters, but you can do, smaller distances for this one. So moving on to the third one. So we had a hamstring injury just before the international break, and this player has family, kids, and as you saw on the map previously, Bodø is very far north. and his family is living in the south. So we thought, okay, we have quite good quality injury. It's not too severe. We think you're going to be able to train when you come back. So we sent him off to get time with his family. And also we had an external guy living close by. He was going to train him and do his rehabilitation. So upon return, he feels super good. He feels very good. He wants to play. We have, I think it was 7 days or 6-7 days to the next game. He wants to play. The problem we feel in the medical team is that although we spoke to this external person and he giving good feedback, we don't have any numbers on him. You know, what has he actually achieved in his running? You know, how much high speed, what's sprint has it done? We don't really know these things. And the manager want him to train. He want him to be part of the technical and tactical parts of training. So we put our heads together and we thought, okay, how can we keep this player within in the training as much as possible with the team, but also try to get some numbers off him without interrupting too much, because we are here to give advice. When the player feels good, you feel good. So on match day -6, when he came back, we did some isometric testing and it looked super good. He was actually stronger on his injured side. Then we did match day -4. We did within the quick feet session or part of the team training. He did the resistance runs, so he did 5 and 10 meters with 30 and 20 kilos. And here you can actually see the head coach or the manager in the background watching his player running and asking questions. How does it look? And we said, sorry, it doesn't look too good. We can see here from the data is quite a big difference between left and right side. So if you remember the graph or the diagram from earlier, you can see they were all the same, and now you can see you have big tops and small tops. So we said to the coach, sorry, at now we don't feel he's ready. We're scared he's going to compensate and not be able to come back safe. So like with the previous hamstring, we did some isokinetic testing in the strength session the next day. And we thought, okay, if he get a little bit tired, then he's going to have time to recover on the recovery day. He was doing this while training with the team, quite partially with the team. And then on match day -2, we did again some resistance sprints. But now we decided we had to test more for performance now. Whilst before we did heavy resistance because we felt that was more safe. Now we wanted to go a little bit lighter, so we did 10 kilo, and we went also further, so 10 and 15 meters. And we got some good data, so we also said, okay, try to test top speed, so we also have his top speed, and he did that with the fitness coaches. And he trained with the team, and he played 30 minutes that week. So that was the way we used the equipment, within the cycle of the player to get some objectiveness into his return to play.
And during this period, just curious, Anders, sorry for interrupting again. What was the communication like between player, and did the player understand, and what did the head coach, what was his perspective into this whole?
Yeah, no,
this little communication circle there that you showed, which is very, very important.
Yeah, no, the communication was very, very good. I think the player understood that we had to test him, and he actually liked the way we did it very well, because he didn't miss any training, which was very important for him. And we were happy that we could collect some data. and the coach were happy that he could play. So and doing training. So no, but you know, you need like I'm gonna summarize it here. I think, but you need all parties to buy in, you know, and that includes the manager. So I think we're very lucky that we have a very innovative coach that wants to. He's curious, you know. He trusts us and our decisions. So when we say this, he understands, and he also played quite big interest in this. This during the rehab or during this testing, you know, like he's watching him run. Then when we did the retesting again, he was watching him running to actually take a big part of the process. So I think we talked about this Ola, as well, but you know, now that we're maybe in bigger clubs and you have more players doing out of house, you know, strength and conditioning and rehab, you know, this is one way to get some objective data as well within the microcycle of the players, you know, within the team, the normal team cycle. So I think that was, we felt that was quite an interesting way to do it, and yeah. So maybe that's something that can be used in the future too. The last case is a rectus femoris injury, and this was injury that happened in training. He was stretching for the ball, and his tailing leg, so his non-stretching leg, got injured. It was a quite complex injury, but we had very big faith that we're going to look like this. We're going to assess him, and then he was going to have a perfect rehab, and he's going to return to play. So, well, that didn't happen, as it sometimes doesn't. And with this player in particular, we took him out on the pitch, and he did improve very, very well on many things. But he got kind of stuck. He couldn't accelerate. You know, I'm going to correct that. He couldn't accelerate without symptoms. So as soon as he got into okay speed, he can maintain speed, but he couldn't accelerate without symptoms. So here's a little bit of sound. I'm going to just switch off. So then we tried in the gym to see, okay, what if we know that resistant running is going to increase the stress on the rectus femoris and the quads? What if we reduce the force required to accelerate by pulling you? So we did a few steps inside, and the player felt good, and went outside on the pitch, and we just played a little bit with the load, the towing load. So we ended up with, we can see on the screen where he had 12 kilo in the beginning, and as when he reached 5 meters per second, it was down to 2 kilo. And running like this, he felt very good. There was no symptoms during acceleration. And you can see here from the graph, so there's a few things there. You can see in the top one, this is acceleration, and you can see in his first runs that he was, you know, a little bit cautious. It takes a little bit of time before he accelerates, but then when he gains more confidence, his acceleration increases, but it also comes earlier, which is very good. And then we also have to be aware of the braking phase. So if I go back to the video, I'm going to put on the sound again, and you can actually hear him braking. And you can hear what we did here, we allowed, I think it was 10 meters of 10 meters where there's no pulling from the machine. But what we should have done here, sorry, we could have used the release strap as well. So because what we do is he's still attached to the cable, but with the release strap, you know, you don't have the risk of him falling or getting caught into the cable. But at least making sure he has enough time to break, because obviously assisting him is going to put more stress on the quads during the braking phase. So this is something to be aware of if you do this approach. With the Isokinetic testing, we did the same. We put that into his strength program, and here we got this graph, and we learned, okay, so you can see here this is his non-injured side. It's actually flat. So we realized we actually did a little bit wrong with the machine. So you can see here is only one how to say it, cable, and not two. It's not a pulley. It's non-pulley mode. And so actually he's outperforming the machine. So the difference you see here between the injured and non-injured side is actually bigger than what we thought in the beginning. So there's a quite big gap, between the legs.
I think it's, if I may, Anders, because I think it's awesome that you actually show this, because you see this flat line in terms of force, because you're in no pulley, you're actually the athlete is able to create the greater force than the system in no pulley mode. So if you'd switch to pulley, like you said, but I love the fact that you're showing this so people can see that we all kind of make mistakes, and you learn from it and you reflect, like, what does this mean? It couldn't be flat on top there, because it goes up and then it stays flat and then it goes down.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you're showing this, because it's so easy to forget that, if you're testing call it a larger muscle group here, the setting it into pulley mode might be a really good idea.
Yeah, and here you can see the answer is here is in pulley mode. As you can see, it's not flat. So this was a few weeks later when now his quad is better. But we chose this exercise to try to to mimic kicking in a controlled way of just both getting hip flexion and knee extension in this exercise. So I think what we saw from this was that with the system runs, potentially can help to facilitate the acceleration phase. So we potentially will take some of the load required to generate force in the like horizontal force, and we just have to be aware of the limitations, of the system. If you do like we did and not use the pulley mode, or maybe have very, very strong athletes, then you might need to use another machine. Another machine is not strong enough. And also with regards to when you run on the pitch, to make sure your athletes are safe. So make sure you have enough safety zone for them to break, especially in the early phases, if you don't want to put too much stress on the quads.
I think this is a really cool. I'm sorry, Anders. I think this is a really good application of what we know about research from acceleration demands and what load does to the knee extensors and the plantar flexors and the hamstrings. So here you're going the opposite way, right? You're using assisted to unload, but yet allowing them to perform the locomotive action.
Yeah.
So it's a really creative. It's just taking what we know from the research and putting it right into play. And the fact that you also use variable loading is that you get more assistance earlier, which is then tapering off, which is great. So I'd like to give you, hats off for that one. That's really good.
Well, I think it was a good also interaction with the player. It was a very good in this session. It was good communication with the player. I think you need to have that to do this. So we were just saying, look, I don't know, let's try. And he was very open and he wanted to try. So, and the aim was for him to just run free, without pain. That was the aim. So, yeah. So, to wrap up, we are still learning. This is very new to us, how this heavy load affect other muscle groups. We talked a little bit about it all, about like the calves, the quads, the hip flexors. There's research coming up. Is still a big gap there, both with resistance and assisted runs. But we feel like it has helped us to make decisions throughout the return to play process. And also we've been learning also, like, although we can use it a lot, it's very important that we focus on what's our main job, and it's actually to get these guys ready to play football and coach them and be their coach or physio or whatever, and not, be there with a tablet on the numbers. And so I think that's very important. And I try to every day. It's hard, but not to have too much focus on the tablet when I use it. But try to have focus on the player, although it's not always easy because it's very interesting the numbers you get out. So, and the last bit is, I think we've found a cool way to use it within in the microcycle. So then you can have safe progression with the players. So.
Could I ask you one question on the microcycle? Because I think you bring up a very important point, which is very unusual to your team. You said they had 22 months with competitive matches.
Yeah.
How important could that be then to have it in your microcycles?
No, for us is I think it'll be very important because we don't. Well, you have always time to testing, but we don't really prioritize that much to do testing. The game is the test. Every training is a test. So I think from the medicals, point of view, we like to get maybe a little bit more objectiveness into things, and this is one way to get it, on the individual level, or maybe on a team level as well. But for now, it's more in the rehab we use it. Yeah.
Brilliant, as Ola says. Anders, I have a question for you.
Put up your last slide, Anders, so people can see your.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah, very good. Oh, very good. Yes, reach out to him with questions, but really just give him an email that says thank you for sharing, because this is so important to the industry now to understand how to use this kind of technology. And that's what my question is going to be. You're in an environment where you've used motorized resistance. You now have that technology, and you've talked about this a little bit. You have a nice, beautiful, big staff, but you also have a bunch of players that have never even been on something like this. Can you talk a little more about how you get the players to buy in? So as you say, that contemporary player, they want to be a part of that process. Because I get this a lot from coaches here in the United States of, how we are implementing it so that everybody feels comfortable along the way, that we're not going too fast, but also getting the use out of it. Could you share with the audience a little more about your experiences, what you did right, maybe what you did wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really have a good answer. I think it's important to just let the players get time to get used to new equipment. I think it's easier to introduce something in a rehab setting where you have one-to-one interaction with the player than maybe on a team level. Although we used to also live with a team on a team level, but I think we just tried it with a few players, and I think what they felt it was a nice tool, and then we also always take the players into the physio room after and show them the data, because they are interested and they want to develop. If you say today we're going to improve your acceleration phase, we're not going to work on the hamstring, where we're going to improve you to accelerate better. Or I see here that your transition is not super great. This is what the data show you. This maybe I record him. And then it's more about the rehab, then turn maybe more into a performance-based rehab, or focused, where the players actually can work on acceleration. They can work on, if you want to coach, like running mechanics or these things. And also we, before they used on the pitch, I didn't mention this earlier, but then we done things in the gym, so maybe very slow, or they maybe just to, for example, with a hamstring injury, maybe just to walk with resistance, or they do some acceleration walking. So they already know the equipment before we go out on the pitch. And I think many players that they like it because it feels they feel quite free, and they feel quite safe, and I think they feel that is more similar to football than maybe other equipment because they're moving horizontally. If that makes sense. Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing that. Colleagues that you're working with, because I'm guessing not all of them had been using motorized resistance. What was that process like for you to help bring that into the club and say, here's how we're going to start to use it?
Yeah. No, we like we said, we have a very good medical staff there with some really good guys, and I brought this in with me this year, and I think they've been welcoming it. Obviously, it's a little bit difficult for them to use it straight away. You have to get, if you put 10 kilo, what does that mean? What the resistance mean? You just have to use it. But the good thing here is people are not scared of just trying to jump into things. They just take it out and try it, or use it in the gym, and then maybe we discuss after, how did you feel? What was your learning? And what was your experience? We always talk about it with the players, and we also done some, workshops within house workshops where we discussed, how we can use it. So I feel now that we use it more and more, and we try not to use it just for the sake of using it, but to use it where we feel actually it has a purpose. And that can be a shoulder, it can be some core training, it can be these cases I showed you now on the pitch or in the gym. Yeah.
And we got two questions from the audience. One, so obviously with the crazy schedule, traveling all over kind of Europe, how did it work bringing the Sprint 2 on the road? Did you do that with your big staff? Did you stay back with the RTP guy? So kind of the portability, that's one of the main kind of selling points or differentiators between the Sprint 1 and Sprint 2. So how did it work kind of with motorized resistance, but also just like the crazy travel schedule, but doing high level RTP?
Yeah, so far we stayed behind with the injured players, so we haven't really needed to bring it with us. But I think normally we spend weeks or months in Spain during pre-season because of the weather conditions and stuff like that, and then obviously we need to bring it. So with the traveling case and stuff, it should be quite easy to bring it with us. And it's like in the gym, we just use it in the gym, and then we just roll out on the pitch. So it's very easy. Like I know this is not the traveling distance, but very easy to just bring outside and use it there. So yeah.
And then second question. So this kind of goes back to your what you were previously saying about you kind of just have to like figure it out. So the question about variable resistance. So for those that don't know what it is, so you can set the machine to go from one load to a different load when the athlete reaches a certain velocity, right? So I guess how did you come to 12 down to 5 at 5 meters a second? Was that you doing it? Was that doing around with an athlete, kind of asking how it felt? So like some of the specifics, because that's one of the less used kind of features.
Yeah.
Just how did you arrive to 12.5 at 5?
I think 5 meters per second. I think we knew his pain-free, steady pace running, and then we went a little bit lower, and then that, and with 2 kilo was just to have a little bit tension. That was what I was thinking. Just a little bit tension on the cable. And then with the 12 is more like it was like a try and see. Okay, I think we started a little bit less and we worked our way up. We could have done the other way as well, but because I haven't used it before, we thought that was a little bit safer and the athlete was more in control. So we did like, okay, how is 8 kilo? okay, no, no, still feel okay. And then we pushed up to 12, and we said, okay, this is the minimum, or yeah, minimum load we need to have to not have any symptoms during these runs. But maybe if we wanted to go had gone quicker, then maybe I had to go higher. I don't know. It was more like an interaction with the player, and it was more like to see, can you do it? Are you able to run? Are you able to do this? It's more like like a normal any test. Are you able to squeeze your groins? How hard can you squeeze? It's the same. It's the same thinking. And then with the running, it was more with the variable load. Is if you think about the quads as well. If you pull them very hard, at least with the braking, you're going to put a lot of stress on the quads. So you want to make sure when they reach a certain speed that you don't pull them off balance, or you make them very hard to brake. So that's why we chose variable resistance. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's very, very good rationale. Very good rationale. And I love the interaction with the athlete and just using their subjective feedback in the process and that interaction.
Yeah.
Player centered. Awesome. Good stuff.
On the assisted loading, do you? I don't know. I guess to clarify what I want to ask. Sorry. When you do that, is there any specific research you could point to, or was it more like I know this is something that's going to feel good, and do you have anything that you could point people toward? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I know
No,
that
no.
does, but
No, I don't have any research.
yeah,
I used it previously with long-term injuries just to try to get them into speed, like help them to get speed back early in the rehab. Not necessarily sprinting, but just to have the feeling of running.
yeah,
Well, I read about this; it can help with the coordination and these things. But I don't know. I haven't read too much. I haven't
yeah. I
seen
feel.
too much research on it, so I don't really know. It's more just, yeah, we think opposite, like Ola
Mhm.
said in the beginning, is okay, the research show resistance is gonna put more stress on the quads, probably because of the position you get the player in, with more torque angle and longer push times. And whilst if you pull them, you get them out of the acceleration phase, at least the position they're in quicker. So we get more into like a steady running pattern early. Yeah.
No, and if we look at it's not too much on it. If you do like a lit review on this,
Right.
if you're looking at muscle activation patterns, there is definite trends. How the lower extremity gears and shifts their distribution based upon assisted versus resisted. If people are interested, they can reach out and we can share some of those insights. But there is some literature there, but it's somewhat limited and it's somewhat arbitrary how they present the data to, like, they present the data at touchdown, or do they present it during the running cycle, or like how is it presented? There's a recent study from July that is very good, but they look at resisted only. And then you have some other studies looking also at assisted. And what I'm talking about here is EMG, like the
Mhm.
electromyography studies, where they look at the muscle activities during these different locomotives, the same locomotive strategy, but different conditions.
Hmm.
And then I have a question more from the performance side as our recovering strength coach on staff. So it was a big light bulb when you were talking about doing the assisted shuffle to the resisted shuffle, right? That it recreated the symptoms. Okay, cool. So this is a test that works the muscles that we need to challenge and test and train and kind of all that stuff. So of course you guys have been going crazy for 22 months, and this is reflections and but have you thought about and worked through this iterative process of RTP helps performance testing and performance testing? You have data to help the RTP process. Have you learned like the isokinetic kicking for the rec fem, right? what baseline data that you want to get, what's going to be added to your guys' testing battery. Of course, every injury is different, but what have you learned from this process that you know that you want to get healthy baseline data on that you hadn't before, if that makes sense? What are you going to add to your kind of testing beforehand from this process?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. Now we're in the process of discussing this, but we don't really have a good answer. But I think what we reflect a little bit on is, for example, with the resistance, now we use external load as a measurement. I mean, we had a session with two guys, one, I don't know, 85 kilo, the other one 75 kilo, and they're both running with 30 kilo resistance. You know, they're going to do it very differently. So if you had a sprint and you had the force, use the the velocity decrement instead of maybe external resistance, maybe that would be more tailored towards the player's need yeah, more specific to this player, the load and the progression. If you knew where are you at in terms of your velocity decrement instead of the resistance, if that makes sense. So I think that's something potentially that could be very useful to have. And I think also like the way we use testing, the football training is the test to see if you can play, not this. And this is just to make sure that we think you can tolerate training and football. They need to be able to train football, not this. And so to have pre-data, yeah, maybe helps a little bit, but I don't know how much it will help you. They need to be able to play football. So maybe that's the answer. Yeah.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
All right. That's all I got too. Ola, you good?
No, we're good. I've been interrupting Anders for quite
Yeah.
throughout the hour.
He gets
No,
he gets to chill now. It's great.
no, this was great. I think we can wrap it up there. We were touching the hour almost right there. So do you want to do the outro, Adam?
Yeah, let's do it. To our participants, thank you for your time as well. The attendees, thanks for checking in and asking your questions. But Anders, fantastic. Can't wait to meet you in person down the road. Thank you for joining us. For everybody out there, have a great day and make speed happen.